Hey guys, I'm Brandon from Sasquatch Studios, and my wife and I very recently released our game Cropolution, but I'm not here to talk about me. I'm very excited because I'm here today with YouTuber and developer of Slimekeep. He spent 5 years working on this game, and it looks absolutely incredible. It looks like so much fun. BenBonk, I want to say again, thank you so much for being here. Congrats on the release. I can't wait to talk about it. So just before we kind of dive into the meat of everything, just for people that don't know who you are, don't know about Slimekeep, just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your game, Slimekeep as well.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. My name is BenBonk, or Bennett, and I'm an indie game developer in college right now. I've been doing game development for around 8-ish years, and I've just released my big commercial game, Slimekeep, after 5 whole years of development. And Slimekeep is a twin-stick action roguelike where you have like the choice to kill or capture slimes to take down the corruption before it's too late. And notably, the game is all green, so it uses only 4 colors for all of the pixel art style. Wow.
That's awesome. And it's very on brand for you. Like, it's all over your YouTube channel as well. Like, all your thumbnails, I'm pretty sure you only use 4 colors for those as well, at least as far as I can tell by skimming through it. It's a very interesting art style, and the monochrome color palette thing, it's a legit thing that games can use. It's a bold choice for sure, though. And I know I sent you questions in advance, so I apologize if I ask you anything that's not on there. I don't want to like trip you up or whatever. But did you find with the monochrome palette, do you think it gave you more or less freedom than having like a full-on make anything any color you want? What do you think?
I would say for development speed, it's really nice just because it's so much easier and faster to make pixel art when you're only using 4 colors, because you don't have to think about all this color theory stuff. You have 4 colors and that's what you use. And I think like also from a marketing standpoint, it's pretty, I like it in a sense because it's so noticeable. Like right off the bat, you see like, if I make a YouTube video, you see a green thumbnail, like, that's me. Yep. You see like a green game. Everyone, it's like, very like marketable thing. So I like that in that sense. It's definitely not for everyone. I'll say that. I know there's people that really love it. I know there's people who are like, this game is just so ugly. Why did you like make the whole game green? Like, it's hurting my eyes. So I know it's like no matter what, it's not gonna be for everyone. And additionally, when you have only 4 colors, there is that inherent problem of having some things you want to make sure you have as much visual clarity as possible. So that can be difficult to balance. I've tried my best in the game to make it as visually clear as I can, but that's an issue that, it's not the easiest thing to tackle when you're using such a limited color palette.
That makes sense. So okay. It's been 5 years. It's out. It's released. How does it feel now that your game is finally out? Are you feeling relief? Are you have you come down off of the adrenaline rush yet? Like, how are you? How's it going?
Yeah, I mean it feels amazing overall. Like, I am not joking when I say that I've been thinking about the launch day or just releasing the game like nearly every day for the past 5 years. So for it to like finally come, it really is awesome, and it just feels like such a relief. And the game has, gotten fairly positive feedback so far. So like, I'm happy that this summer, I can also hopefully take a bit of a break from game dev, maybe try some new things and also hopefully take a much needed vacation. But I mean, overall, it feels kind of like a weight off my shoulders that it's out, and it's a great feeling overall. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. And launch day specifically is like big, and I've heard stories about, there was one, I think it was Eric Barone when he released Stardew Valley, and I try not to compare developers to him because like it's not really a comparable scenario, but still I think he also took 5 years to make his game, and I think, don't quote me on this, but I remember reading that he like was awake for like 72 hours straight or something completely insane, like leading up to the release of his game. Was there anything crazy like that for you? Like, what was actual release day like for you?
Yeah, so honestly, I've heard those stories too, and I was fully, prepared for the worst. Cleared my schedule, everything. I was like, this is gonna be hectic. But in all honesty, it was way less stressful than I thought it was gonna be. Like, I was fully expecting there to be hundreds of bug reports, tons of soft locks, and just lots of like criticism off the bat. But I really didn't get like that much of negative feedback or bug reports overall. Like there definitely were, bug reports and a few rare soft locks, but just nothing super terrible, which was great to see. And it was also just like way less overwhelming, I think, than I expected. I was kind of fully prepared for it to be, one of like the biggest days of my life. But I mean, it all seemed to go by pretty quickly. So, I mean, I was just super happy to get the game out, but I think also part of the reason why it didn't feel like as big as I thought it might be is because I realized, I still have work to do. It's not like once I launch this, I'm not done for now. Like I still have all these bug fixes to do. It's not like I'm just hands off for the next few months. But I mean, yeah, overall, I'd call it a successful launch day for sure. I definitely was happy with how it went overall. And I mean, lots of just very heartwarming feedback from my community and just everyone congratulating me on releasing the game. So it was hectic, but it was definitely a really nice day overall.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And like you mentioned, you've mostly gotten all positive feedback. Did any feedback or bug fixes that you got that you've heard of, like, has anything really stood out to you, or there's just everything it's not too bad?
Yeah, so I mean, the three negative reviews that I've gotten, I've been counting, I've been reading every review, since launch.
Yeah.
The three negative reviews, two of them are just about like the color palette, which I was expecting. I honestly was expecting more. The people be like, oh, I don't know, I just don't like how the game looks and stuff. But most of it has just been that. But the biggest thing that I was not expecting was I have kind of a long answer for this that I was thinking about when you asked this question, but it'd have to be the game balance, because long story short, a lot of people found the game just too easy.
Okay.
Like some people were literally beating it on their first run, in less than an hour, which was not my goal
Right.
at all. And so like your normal response to that as a developer is to, just like make the game harder. Just like give bosses more health or like drop less currency. But, I think it's kind of, you have to be careful about that because there's also people that thought the game was, the perfect level of difficulty or even like a little too difficult. So you just kind of have to consider these things when like tweaking it.
Yeah.
And, you have to keep in mind that for some people, this is the first roguelike game they've ever played. So
Yes.
They're really new to this whole concept. And other people, they've played thousands of hours of similar roguelikes. So in the end, I did end up kind of making the game more difficult. Definitely just tweaked the game's balance to, make sure it really was where I wanted things to be. And I also just made sure to like keep in mind for future updates to, give those people that want a real challenge, add more difficulty modes or add more kind of replayability post game. So that was definitely something I was not expecting because I I thought the game was balanced, but you just don't know what's going to happen at launch.
No, you don't. And so you kind of answered my next question a little bit. So I was going to ask, like, what do you plan on continuing to update Slimekeep, and if so, like, what kind of updates can they expect? So you did just mention more difficulty settings. Is there anything else that you've got planned for the future of Slimekeep?
Yeah, so I mean, like this is definitely the question I've gotten the most, and I like definitely want to continue updating the game and adding new content. But I mean, I also have so many other projects and things that I really just want to explore. So I'm not really sure if I have it in me to work on the project for a super long period of time.
Yeah.
But I'd say my goal right now is just to fix all the like small bugs, small issues in the game, and then hopefully, as I said, just work on the replayability with some improvements to like the challenge mode. Because I have my main game, and then I have the challenge mode afterwards. And I was like, the challenge mode is a real difficult challenge. Like I'm not sure if people are gonna be able to beat this. And people are like, challenge mode, I just beat it. I'm like, day one, like how did you do that? So also controller support, something I'm not sure. I did not realize how many people really, really value controller support. So if I can figure that out, that's something that I'm looking into. But those are the main things right now, and we'll have to see about big content updates like new bosses or enemies or weapons and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So in terms of bug fixes and all that kind of stuff, I assume you keep track of that somewhere in some sort of list. Is it? Do you have a lot? Like, my question is like, how long do you expect to be working on like bug fixes and just little small patches for Slimekeep?
It's honestly, yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I'd imagine the next few weeks is just kind of dedicated to that. Like, that's my goal right now, is to just get all the bug fixes done and then focus on the new content stuff.
Yep.
But I would say a few weeks likely, just because whenever a bug report comes in, there's still a few like rare soft locks in the game that I'm aware of, but they're just so rare that biggest challenge is people will send me they'll just submit a bug report and they'll be like, hey, my capture gun, which is like this weapon the game stopped working, and I'm like, well, that's not good, but like there's a billion things that could have caused that. So I mean, I would need a video or something, and I'm not getting videos to fix it because they're so rare, and like only a very small few people actually get them. So I know there's still some lingering stuff like that where I'm aware of them, I just can't really fix them yet. So hopefully we'll get those things patched up, and I think we're in a pretty decent stable state right now. I mean, I've definitely spent a lot of time just tweaking that balance loop, which I'm pretty happy with right now. But yeah, hopefully next few weeks, I mean, get all those soft locks ironed out. But the game is in a pretty decent state right now, I'd say. There's still definitely small stuff in there, but yeah, I'm happy with it where it is overall for now.
Awesome. Have you, and I didn't check before this interview, I should have, but I didn't. Is it version 1.0 right now, or have you done any kind of small patches to the game yet? I know it only released I think it was how many days ago was it that it launched?
8 days ago.
8 days ago, yeah. So have you done any updates, or is it still completely vanilla version 1.0?
So we're actually, I don't know if I think maybe we're on version 1.0.3. So okay. I don't know if it's necessarily, I think for other games like a point, an extra 0.1 on the end there might be like a big update, but I've just, I'm aware of all these bugs, so I'm just trying to fix them as soon as I can. And because, the last thing I want is like a streamer or a YouTuber to play the game and then just run into a bug and feel like, oh no, that's not good. So I've just been pushing updates every few days, when I find the free time to work on the game. And just a lot of those have been like the balance work. That was my main kind of concern initially, just to, really tweak the balance and fix all the kind of obvious simple bugs that I could get out of the way as soon as possible.
Gotcha. I'm curious, as a developer, in terms of pushing out updates to Steam, if you have any kind of a process to it, because for me, I'm in the process of pushing out a bunch of bug fixes to my game right now as well. And just so that I don't lose track, I'm sending copies to my kids, I'm sending copies to my wife, I keep copies for myself, and the family play tests it and everything. And so that I don't lose track, I always add a letter at the end. So it's version 1.1.3F or whatever, right? And I increment the letter if it's just before I've actually pushed it out to Steam, there won't be a letter. But then if I have to revise it again, because I just fixed this, but now I broke this over here because I did that, so now I'm on B, and then I fixed that over here, but now this problem cropped up over here, so now I'm on C, etc., etc. So I'm just in terms of playtesting, in terms of what is your process like before? And I know you've only had 8 days to really get any experience with this, but I'm just curious, what has your process so far been in terms of okay, you got a bug report, you fixed it, and now you want to actually send that patch out and upload it to Steam so that everybody can actually update Slimekeep and get that bug fix. What's the testing phase been like for you?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, my testing phase probably hasn't been as thorough as I would like it for these first few launches or these first few small updates, just because I've been kind of rushing to, ideally I should probably test them more, but I'm doing mostly just the testing myself for these ones. Obviously, I had playtesters before this test.
Yeah.
My plan is, when I have big updates, those are definitely, staying on the beta branch for a while to make sure they're thoroughly tested. But right now, how I just have it set up is I just have like my CI/CD system. So whenever I work on my like development branch, and then I can just push a new update. So I push pretty frequently to like my I guess like beta branch, as you can call it, and then my playtesters will see that. And then ideally after they test it for a bit, then I can push to like my Steam production branch, and it's like automatically built, in the cloud and deployed to Steam. So that just makes that process really easy. So that's just kind of been my process throughout this whole time. I haven't spent as much time really getting my playtesters to fully test these last few patches as I really should have, but thankfully I don't think I've broken anything major so far. But that's just kind of my process for now. This is my first time doing a big launch.
Yep.
I'm not an expert in this by any means, so but yeah.
I'm honestly relieved to hear it, because I'm in exactly the same boat. It's like I've actually sent out 1 or 2 updates where I'm like, oh no, and then 20 minutes later I updated it again because I realized like I missed something, or it's just like the dumbest things, and especially like the week after launch, because it's like you're so tired. It's like you're just not functioning at 100%. So no, I understand completely, and I'm kind of just happy to hear someone else say it, to be perfectly honest. And if you're not comfortable with this question, I can always edit this part out if you don't want to say. But I am curious, if you are comfortable, what were your wish lists like right before launch? Do you know what the figure was?
Yeah, so my wish list, I was really lucky. So over my whole YouTube career, I guess you could say, I'd ask for wish list every single video.
Yep.
And I ended up with, I think, around 17,000 the week before launch.
That's awesome.
And then the few days before launch, I read this like article from I'm not sure if you've heard of like Chris Zukowski with How to Market a Game.
Yes.
And he has this like blog post that's like, when's the best day to launch? And he said Monday, because you can like, if you get on the popular upcoming page, you can accumulate wish lists all throughout the weekend and on Friday. So I was like, might as well give it a try. So I've basically been at around 17,000 wish lists for the past like year or two. It stayed around that figure. And then I was really lucky to get like, I think number 2 on the Steam's popular upcoming, starting on Friday all the way through Sunday. So just from that one push, I got around 3,000 wish lists. So I ended up with around 20,000 at launch. So that was really great to see. I'm glad I hit that 20,000 number.
That's incredible. Congratulations. And
thank you.
Did you, I know people throw all sorts of percentages out there. Like, you probably went into it with a certain expectation, a certain percentage point in mind, like, X% of my wish list will probably convert to sales. Did the reality kind of match your expectations? And if you're comfortable, do you mind sharing some of those figures?
Yeah, so I mean, I still wasn't fully sure what to expect. I had read on articles online where it's like you'll get 10 to 20% on your first week of launch, and I'm like, man, I mean, if I get 10 to 20% of like a wish list to convert, that would be amazing. And so launch day, I ended up getting around 5% of my wish lists to convert, which you can do the math on that. And then it definitely slowed down a lot,
Right.
a lot. After that initial launch day for the past week or so, because I did have a 20% launch discount, so I kind of wanted to incentivize people there. So I'm hoping more wish lists will convert in the future to get to that 10 to 20% range, and I just really haven't seen those numbers yet. But I'm totally fine with it. I'm it's not like this was my full-time job. It's more of a project, and I've been more happy to see that so many people have really seemed to enjoy the game. We're actually playing it, so I mean, if it doesn't reach my ideal sales figures, it's still been a learning process. So
but you're mostly
also,
happy.
I am just
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I am mostly happy, and I'm hoping for some. Well, I guess this might get into your next question, but we're hoping for some bigger YouTubers maybe to play the game. We'll have to let time tell.
Have you? Okay, so I'm curious. So have you reached out to anyone? You say you're hoping for bigger YouTubers. Like, have you specifically asked anyone?
Yes. So I mean, it's kind of at the point where it's like, who haven't I asked? So I spent a few weeks, few weeks. I mean, I've really just been gathering emails like pretty frequently for a few months before launch, and then so I built up like this spreadsheet of around 250 email addresses for like influencers and YouTubers and streamers who like specifically play roguelikes and indie games on their channels. And then, I just emailed them with the free Steam key and kind of just hope for the best.
Yep.
And so far, I've been tracking all their keys and stuff. So around, like, I think it's 20 or 30 of those influencers have claimed the key, and around 10 or so have, like, made videos, which is really cool to see. But, I mean, most of them are, smaller streamers and YouTubers, which, I've loved seeing their videos and just seeing them actually play the game. But, it would be obviously awesome to see if some of those like big YouTubers end up playing it, which I can only hope for. So we'll just have to let time tell.
That's really smart. So you compiled an email list of a whole bunch of streamers and everything. So you're obviously doing something besides a devlog series for marketing your game. Was there any other types of marketing that you did for Slimekeep that you can talk about, or is it basically devlog and streamers, and that's basically it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my devlog was my main marketing source, but I've heard people say that those numbers won't convert as well as you think they will, and I'm not sure how true that is. I mean, maybe that's so. I did end up doing like a few Reddit posts at launch, and they got like a few hundred upvotes. I'm not sure what converted from there, but yeah, mostly besides the YouTube channel and just sending emails to streamers and YouTubers, that was like pretty much the extent of my marketing. I mean, I'm not really on a budget. I don't really have a ton of money to be throwing around, so I mean, that was my go-to strategy.
No, that's awesome, and that strategy reminds me of something that Thomas Brush talks about sometimes. I know he spent a lot of, I forget which game, or maybe he does it for all of them, but I know he has in the past compiled a huge list of a whole bunch of names and emails everybody. And not many developers will go through the trouble of actually doing that work. So good on you. That's awesome. I think that's really smart. Yeah. So, and I am curious, in terms of Steam specifically, because I had a couple of things that I didn't even think about before launch, and just or I thought there were so few cases where it just wouldn't apply to me. But I had people reach out to me and say your game doesn't work on my ultra wide monitor, and they gave me the resolution, and I was like, ultra wide monitor, I didn't even think of that. Or people talking about are you going to release it on Steam Deck? I would love to play it on Steam Deck. So were there any and also gamepad support, because my game did do gamepad, and I had a bit of trouble getting Steam to approve it for this is fully supported with gamepad. There was a bit of a back and forth there. Mm-hmm. So was there anything just relating to getting published and dealing with Steam specifically that kind of threw you off a little bit, or you weren't expecting, or came as a surprise?
I definitely I heard people say that Steam Deck was going to be something that I really wanted to look into, and I still don't think I've fully set that up on Steam. That's something I need to do, but I've heard, thankfully, I don't have a Steam Deck, so I don't really know how the testing for that works.
Yeah.
I know someone who has a Steam Deck and has played it and said it works fine. So, and also someone left a review on the page, and it marks it as person played with Steam Deck the majority of the time, and they played for 10 hours, and it seemed to work for them. So I was happy to see that. But nice. I wouldn't say I've had any too major issues with Steam. I mean, because I haven't done controller support, I'm not sure how that would look. I haven't gotten any complaints about the resolution stuff. I know I tried my best to fix that during playtesting, because I did have, similar to you, people are this does not work on my ultra wide monitor. And so, I had to spend a day or two just reworking like every piece of UI to get it to like anchor properly. So that was a bit of a mess. I know there was some issue on Mac that I wasn't expecting with like the cursor. Because I changed the cursor logic, and Mac for some reason does like, I don't know. It was so weird. It's like I try to hide the cursor, but the cursor is like still on the screen, and that was confusing. I'm not sure if that's actually fixed. I tried my best, so we'll see. But nothing too terrible Steam wise.
Mac is so weird. The first build, my wife uses a Mac. I don't know why, but she uses a Mac. And the first build that I gave her, the cursor was like the size of the screen. I was like, this pen all over my hand. This cursor was the size of the whole screen. I was like, why is Mac like this? I don't understand. It's fine on Windows. But anyways, I digress. It's things are weird on Mac, and I don't know why. Anyways, changing the subject entirely here a little bit. Price point for Slimekeep. I'm just really curious in terms of, especially for other developers that are looking to like how figure out a strategy for how to price their game. Did you have a strategy in terms of picking your price point, or did you kind of maybe just look at other games similar to yours and just kind of average it from there, or like what was your method for picking the price of Slimekeep?
Yeah, so I'm really glad you asked this question, because like I know a few people, not too many, have said that $15 for my game is a bit too much, and like I totally understand that. Like I personally think, I don't know if I should be saying this, like I think the game is probably worth like a good fair price point is like $12. But I think you just have to keep in mind that like, and all game developers have to keep in mind that first of all, Steam takes 30% of your sales. And then, games go on sale pretty often. So, my game also launched with that 20% discount.
Yeah.
And also just the fact that, like, indie game developers, I think, have to catch on with the rest of the market. So, like, over the years, we've seen AAA games go from 60 to 70, or starting with 50 to 60 to 70, to then, like, now I think the new Mario Kart is going to be 80.
Yeah.
And I think, like, the indie games, as far as I've seen, have stayed around that $10 to $20 range for quite a while. So I think it's kind of time that indie game developers charge, for what their game's really worth. Because, some people have said that like, $15 is not worth it, because why would I buy like your game when I could buy The Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon for like a similar price point? And like my response to that would just have to be like, firstly, those games have been out for years. They've received tons of content updates. And secondly, so many of those old games that people often refer to, they launched, 8 or 9 years ago. So just like, even if counting for inflation, $15 8 years ago might be, $20 today. So I think people just need to keep that in mind when pricing their games in general.
I think that's smart. And I think there are some games where their low price point has probably hurt other indie developers. Hollow Knight comes to mind. It's like that. It should have been triple the price that it was, just to be fair to other indie developers. Same with like, I think the game that in my Steam library that I have played the most out of any game is Vampire Survivors, which is like I think it was $5. $5. Yeah. So, and like it's worth, in my opinion, it's worth more than $5, because something I heard once that I kind of agreed with is like $1 per hour is generally kind of fair in people's minds, and that sounds about right to me. Give or take. And Vampire Survivors, I played for way more than 5 hours. I can promise you that. So, I was just curious. So yeah, thank you for that. I agree with your points as well. Those are some good points. Now, I want to talk about development specifically. Did you have like, in terms of coding, in terms of art, whatever it was, pick any topic you want. What was your biggest hurdle in the 5 years of developing Slimekeep? Like, what was the thing that just, almost broke you? And how did you overcome it?
I would probably have to say, like, the biggest challenge for me was just the old code that I wrote.
Yeah.
Because so much of the thing is like when I started this, I said in like my 5-year recap video. I mean, I genuinely like didn't even know like what a class was. Like I didn't learn programming before I started game development. So I knew how to make these small games, but I didn't know how to make these like big games, which is a whole different beast. So a lot of the systems in the game still to this day are just so poorly written. Like the weapon system was one of the first systems that I made in the game, and that's like still to this day based on like a Blackthorn prod tutorial that was meant for like the smallest games, and I really should have refactored it. So like my biggest challenge, especially it was fine for the start, but just having all of this old, just like unmodifiable, like unreusable, unexpandable code that's just sitting in the code base. And I know I should probably refactor it, and I know I should probably be just improving it, but all that stuff, I always hear people say like, oh, it's you got to have reusable and clean code, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then, like now I've learned from firsthand, like, okay, they weren't lying, like they are really onto something. Like it is worth it to invest that extra hour or two when you're writing a new system to make it as well of a foundation as you can for the future, because you just don't know how many hours it's going to cost you down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah, just dealing with all that old code in the game was definitely a learning experience, and definitely like my biggest challenge, especially towards the end of development, and something that I now think I've learned for future projects. Definitely a learning experience.
I actually remember from the last time I interviewed you, and this is not to poke fun at you, by the way. This is like, I laugh at it because I can relate to it as well. I remember you telling me when you were writing methods, when you were new, you didn't actually realize that they could have different return types other than void, right? Like, I remember when I first learned that too, and it was like, oh, it never ends. There's always so much stuff. So yeah, it's working around code when you didn't even know like basic things like that. Yeah, that's a difficult thing to do.
I mean, it's a miracle that the game actually is like held together at this point, because I feel like if I were to make it open source, oh boy, there would just be some there would be some rough comments. Like some of my playtesters I know decompiled it and just spent like hours just like poking fun of like my structure. Like, why in the world did you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. But here we are today. I guess at the end of the day, even if the code is terrible, I mean, you can still release something, but I would still make sure to focus on actually making good code just for your own sanity.
Yep. I think there's definitely a balance to be had, because like there's tech debt, which can really slow you down, which is everything you were just talking about. And then there's like, you can obsess over perfecting your systems so much that you never actually end up making anything. So yeah, I think there's definitely a middle ground to be found there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regarding content in your game, I'm curious, did you ever have anything that you had to cut out for any kind of reason, or just anything that you wanted to make but you weren't able to get it done in time, or for whatever reason couldn't make it into the final release of the game?
I think there was, a lot of things like as I was developing the game, because I had such like a big audience, watching every devlog and constantly commenting like, oh, you should add this and this. I think I got pretty good as, I was developing the game to learn to reject things that I knew, like, I think this is such a cool idea, but I just know I'm just not going to be able to do that in time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's nothing super major that I had to cut last minute, because I think I just tried to manage my scope creep the best I could as I was developing the game. But, I think a lot of people wanted to see, like, different biomes and different, more bosses and like, melee weapons and different player abilities. So like, I think those things would have been cool, but I just knew I had to keep the scope relatively small. And I think the game turned out, fine as is. So I don't really regret it per se. Like, again, I think it'd be cool to add that kind of stuff, but it's something that, oh, well, it didn't make it in the final release, and that's fine with me.
Where does it end, right? Like if you start implementing all those things.
At some point, you just have to ship, you just have to get it out. Because, I mean, I could spend another 5 years on this game for sure. Like, if I accepted every single person's ideas and suggestions, the game would end up a complete mess and it would probably never release. So you want to listen to feedback, but you also don't want to listen to too much feedback, I'd say.
Yeah. It's just like everything. It seems to be a balance, I have found.
Yeah.
There's always that, maybe this isn't true for you. I'm not sure if it is or not, but I know for me, there's always kind of like the temptation and the lure of like working on another project. Part of that for me is because I'm always making tutorials and stuff on my YouTube channel. So I always have my hands in different pots. While you were working on Slimekeep, did you ever find yourself tempted or wanting to just like not quit, but like, well, maybe you thought about quitting, and if you did, I'd love to hear about it. But even if you didn't, was there ever a time where you were like tempted to like start working on another little second side project just to like get out some other creative ideas that you kind of can't do because you're working on Slimekeep? Yeah, just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were just so many points where I was just like, I had an idea for a game that just popped in my head. I'm like, man, I really, really want to make this. But I just knew I couldn't, because if I keep taking those breaks and just letting myself do that, the game would never get finished, which is really like difficult, because I think I was talking to someone and they're saying that, like game dev is like being a masochist, because it's kind of like the biggest test of delayed gratification you can possibly go through, because at the end of the day, you're basically working on a project for years on end without actually getting much like reward or gratification per se.
Yeah.
So definitely during development, I just had so many ideas for games that I really wanted to make, but I just knew I had to focus and just lock in on just actually finishing the game. So there's definitely been that temptation, but never seriously did I consider quitting or moving to a different project.
Gotcha. And good for you, by the way. So, and speaking of delayed gratification, by the way, I think people that are working on their first project that have never published anything, I think some people are waiting for that, like, you build the game and you launch it on Steam and you get this, I did it. You get this like I actually did it kind of feeling that happens post-launch. Did you experience that feeling, even though you're still getting bug reports and you're still having to fix things? Like, does it feel real to you? Do you feel like a real game developer?
I mean, I don't really feel like I felt that to as much as the extent as I expected to, because I guess at the end of the day, I mean, launch day, I was kind of building it up in my head like this is going to be, the biggest day of my life. But when I got there, kind of just felt like a normal day to me. Because as I said, I knew I still wasn't off the hook, and I have to do all these updates. So I'm not sure if I fully got the like I did it feeling, and I'm done with this forever. But in regards of I think the game was worth it. I would definitely have to say yes. Like, even if the game doesn't make, a ton of money, like I still learned so much, from this whole process, like programming and art and just general life skills that I don't think I could get anywhere else. And, I really acquired through this like firsthand experience. I definitely don't think I'd do it again though, because I don't think I have it in me to work for another 5 years on a whole project like this, but definitely some smaller scale projects could be really cool to explore in the future.
That's cool. So that reminds me of the only name that comes to mind right now is like Jonas Tyroler. I know he worked on Will You Snail for I think it was 4 years, maybe 5,
yeah.
But I think it was 4, and then he made Thronefall in I think around a year, give or take, which did crazy well. But yeah, much shorter project. The second time around, and I know he had a first game that he worked on with a team, but yeah, so it was worth it. It took you 5 years. You definitely feel like it was worth it. You got all that experience and everything. So what is next for you? Because I'm sure you've been asked this so many times on your YouTube channel, on your Discord, all these different things. Like, I know you're probably going to take a well-earned break, right? Because that's the thing that everyone needs after a release, I think. But what, like, long term a little bit, like what are you hoping to do? Do you want to make more games? Are you wanting to like explore new areas of life? What's next for you?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely, going to continue updating Slimekeep for the next few months or so, and then after that whole fiasco period ends, where I, get all the stuff I want to, get out for where I think the game is in like a solid overall state. Definitely just take a break or a vacation. And then after that, I would say I'm not completely sure yet. Like, I definitely love game development, and I have so many ideas now that have just built up over the years for games that I want to make. But I'm not sure if I'm going to want to hop right back in that right away. I also have my YouTube channel to consider, so I'm not sure if I want to maybe do some more game jams or YouTube kind of like game dev challenge videos and try that out. But also, it's like, as much as I love game development, I mean, I'm still fairly young, and I have a lot of other kind of programming related interests that I really would like to explore, and I just feel like I haven't necessarily had the time to do so because I've been locked in this project for so long. So, I really just love learning all different kinds of things. That's the main thing for me. So, trying out web development or robotics or I don't know, something like that, I think could be really interesting. And just all the different kind of things surrounding, creation, just because at the end of the day, I feel like I just like creating stuff and putting stuff out in the world. So, we'll have to see. I don't think I'm going to abandon game development anytime soon, but, I don't feel like I can give a solid, complete answer, as unsatisfying as that might be. Maybe I'll focus on more on YouTube. Maybe I'll go quiet for a bit and just do my own thing. Maybe I'll work on another project fairly soon, and we'll just have to let time tell.
Fair enough. That's a good answer. And I know you said you were in college. Last time we spoke, and I didn't know this about you at the time, but you were in high school. So did you start this project when you were in grade 9?
Yes. So it's crazy for me to say that. I was always kind of interested in game development, and I'd done it for like a year or two before working on Slimekeep, maybe a bit longer, I don't know, just trying to learn Unity and stuff. And then, I always wanted to like do game jams. So COVID hit, and I just had this free time all of a sudden. Like, our school closed early for it's closed in March, and we were out for like the rest of the year. So I was like, might as well do a game jam, and then made Slimekeep, and then kind of just started the ball rolling from there. And I never anticipated it to get this big, not in a million years. So that's how it all got started, and it's kind of crazy to think that I've seen myself grow as a game developer throughout this 5 years, and I've also grown a lot. I mean, this has been almost a fourth of my life just working on this project, and also just seeing all the comments of people watching my videos, just saying like, man, I can't believe I watched your first devlog like when I was in college, and now I have like a full-time job, or I watched your first devlog back when I was like such a long time ago, and like now here I am. It's crazy that you're still doing this. So I think it's all been kind of just a growing experience for not only me, but everyone in my community in general.
That's so cool. Excuse me. That's amazing. So with everything that you've learned in your 5 years working on Slimekeep, like you say, you've grown a lot. If you could go back to when you first started working on Slimekeep, and you said it was a game jam, so I guess like right around that time, if you could go back in time when you started working on Slimekeep and give yourself a message from right now, knowing everything that you know now, what would you say?
I would probably say like, you're probably not ready to do this. I guess maybe in retrospect that's easy to say, but I'd be like, you really need to make sure you know how to write. Again, I say this, it's kind of the boring answer, but clean, reusable code before you even dive into this, because you may think you know how to make a game, and you do, but you only know how to make small games. And making a big game is just a completely different beast compared to making a small game. And also, I'd just say, like, have a plan, because when I first started this, I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, I just kind of dove in. I didn't have like a game plan. You don't have to plan everything out. That's not to say like, oh, plan out exactly what you want your game to be, but I think I just hopped in too early, and I was like, I'm going to make a roguelike, but then I don't really know what's going to differentiate it, and then I just kind of figured things out as I was going, which I think really, really slowed down development, especially early on, and just kind of made me pay for things later on in development.
It's not a boring answer, honestly, because I think even though the beginner people that are just starting out seem to hear this all the time, it seems to be the thing that they need to keep on hearing. I find I went through the exact same thing. I think there's a term for it. I actually just recorded a podcast episode recently, so I'm going off memory here. I think it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. There's this whole your confidence is here, and here's time, so you can actually graph it out. And what you're going to see is that at first your confidence like skyrockets as you gain a little bit of experience, and you're like, oh yeah, I know how to make a game. And then all of a sudden you start a project, and then your confidence just plummets because you've now learned enough to know how much you don't know, which is that really scary part where you go down, and then you start kind of creeping back up slowly where it actually starts to stick, right? And so I think that's kind of something that a lot of us go through, because there's this weird phase in the start where you're like, yeah, I know how to make a game. And as you say, making a full release is a totally different beast than making like a small game jam game kind of thing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I definitely think I'd say I went through the whole entire Dunning-Kruger graph throughout the development. It kind of perfectly sums up my story, so I can contest that is accurate.
That's funny. So I just want to say again, thank you so much for joining me. I do want to give you an opportunity if you want to share anything with your fans or with just fellow developers out there that are wanting to be where you're at today. Now that Slimekeep's out in the world, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just say thank you so much to everyone who's just supported me on this journey, and I hope you have enjoyed watching me develop Slimekeep, as it, truly has been like the craziest experience of my life. And, if my development story sounded interesting to you, definitely, give it a go. You don't have to work, spend 5 years on a project. You can make really cool stuff in, 6 months or a year. So just keep at it. Just stay persistent with your goals. Stay persistent working on it. It's not going to be the easiest. When you get started, it's definitely a grind, and there's going to be tough times that you have to push through. But in the end, I definitely think it's just a totally worth it process. Yeah, that would be my message. And I mean, feel free to check out my, YouTube channel if you're curious of how the game was actually created, because it's very cool for me personally to see I can go back and watch, from day one how this game started. And, if you Slimekeep sounds up your alley, feel free to check it out on Steam. And I think just that would be my message. And thank you to everyone who's just continued to watch me and who's purchased the game so far and played it and has seemed to enjoy it.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, I just want to say to you guys as well, BenBonk is the YouTube channel, so go and check that out. It is a whole lot of green thumbnails. You cannot miss it. So it's very color palette wise, it's very in sync with Slimekeep. And he has done devlogs the whole step of the way, all throughout the 5 years. You can kind of see from A to Z what this game has become over the years. It's really, really cool. So go check him out on YouTube, and go buy Slimekeep. And if you can't buy it today, go ahead and wishlist it so that you get notified when it's on sale, because wishlisting, and in case you didn't know this, by the way, wishlisting the game also helps boost games and the Steam algorithm a little bit. So even just wishlisting can help support BenBonk here. So go ahead and do that after you're done watching this video. And again, BenBonk, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure talking with you, and take care, man. I hope that things start to wind down for you, and you can get that much needed vacation that you were talking about.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for having me on, Brandon.
You're welcome, man. All right, cheers, take care.